You're standing at the edge of everything you've ever known. Behind you is the only land your people have walked for 200,000 years. The same rivers, the same hills, the same stars your grandmother pointed at before she died. Ahead of you is a horizon no human has ever crossed. No maps, no stories about what's out there, no one who came back to tell you. Just a feeling in your gut that says, keep going. So you take the first step out of Africa, and without knowing it, you change the entire future of our species. Here's what you need to understand first. Africa wasn't a place humans were trying to escape. Africa was home. It was everything. For hundreds of thousands of years, it gave our ancestors exactly what they needed. Warm days, familiar animals, plants they knew how to eat, and plants they knew would kill them. Every valley had a name. Every danger was a danger their parents had already survived and taught them to survive too. You were born knowing your world. That is a kind of safety we've almost completely forgotten. Now imagine leaving all of it. Not for a weekend, not for a season, forever. Walking away from the only home your entire species has ever had, into land where you don't know which water is safe, which animals hunt at night, or whether the next valley even has food. Every step is a step further from everything that kept your family alive. So the question is simple, and it's one nobody can fully answer. Why would anyone do that? Why would humans, after 200,000 years of staying exactly where they belonged, suddenly decide to walk into the unknown? Because make no mistake, the world outside Africa was not waiting to welcome them. To the north was the Sahara. Not the sand you're picturing, but a wall of dead, waterless land that could kill you in days. Beyond that, deserts gave way to mountains, and mountains gave way to a cold most of your ancestors had no word for. Snow, ice, winters that lasted months, a body built for African heat standing in a landscape actively trying to freeze it to death. And the animals. Cave lions, cave bears, hyenas the size of small bears. Later, the great mammoths and woolly rhinos of the frozen north. Predators that had never seen a human before and had absolutely no reason to fear one. Every rule of survival said the same thing. Stay. Stay where the food is. Stay where you know the predators. Stay where your ancestors are buried. Stay alive. And yet, they left anyway. So what pushed them? The truth is, it probably wasn't one thing. It was a slow squeeze that lasted thousands of years. First, the climate. The Earth doesn't hold still. Over tens of thousands of years, it swings between wet and dry, warm and cold. And during the wet periods, something incredible happened. The Sahara bloomed. That deadly desert turned green. Rivers ran through it. Lakes appeared. Grass and animals spread across land that is nothing but sand today. And for a brief window, the door out of Africa was simply open, a green highway leading north. Second, hunger and numbers. As groups grew, the land had to feed more mouths. When your valley can't hold everyone, some of you have to move on. Not out of adventure, out of pressure. You follow the herds. The herds follow the grass, and step by step, generation by generation, without anyone deciding to leave Africa, your descendants end up somewhere your ancestors never imagined. And third, the thing that makes us human. Curiosity, that restless, dangerous itch to know what's over the next hill. Most animals will never cross a border. Their instincts tell them to fear. Humans do it on purpose. We are the only species that looks at an empty, terrifying horizon and thinks, I wonder. But here's what most people don't realize. Leaving Africa wasn't a single, clean event. It was more like a door that kept opening and slamming shut. Small groups had tried before, tens of thousands of years earlier, wandering north when the climate allowed, and most of them vanished. Swallowed by drought, by cold, by lands that simply didn't want them. For a long time, leaving Africa was a death sentence that a few brave, doomed groups kept walking into anyway. The main journey, the one that seeded most of the world, happened around 60,000 years ago. And here's a detail that should stop you cold. It probably wasn't a great migration of thousands. Genetically, the humans who left and survived may have been a tiny group, a few hundred people. That's it. A single band, smaller than the number of people you follow online, carrying the entire future of humanity outside Africa in their bodies. And there's a darker piece to this story. Around this time, our species came terrifyingly close to disappearing altogether. Some scientists believe a massive volcanic eruption choked the sky and dropped the temperature for years. And the total number of humans on Earth may have collapsed to just a few thousand. Think about that. Everything we would ever become, every person who would ever live, balanced on a group small enough to fit in a single stadium. The walk out of Africa wasn't a confident march of a thriving species. It was the desperate scattering of survivors. They likely crossed near the mouth of the Red Sea, where the water narrows, then pushed along the coasts of Arabia and Asia, eating shellfish, following coastlines, always moving. Some turned north into the cold. Some pushed east until they ran out of land and built boats to cross open water to Australia. Land no human eye had ever seen. Picture what those first steps actually felt like. Feet cracked and bleeding on ground no ancestor had ever touched. Nights spent listening to sounds you had no name for. Burying the ones who didn't make it and walking on the next morning, because stopping meant dying too. And they weren't alone out there. Other kinds of humans already lived in these lands. The Neanderthals in Europe, the Denisovans in Asia. Our ancestors met them, fought them, loved them, had children with them. If you're not of fully African descent, you're almost certainly carrying a little of their DNA in you right now. Ancient humans that no longer exist, still alive in your blood. Now step back and look at the scale of what happened. A small group of tropical apes, born for African sun, walked out with nothing but stone tools and each other. And within a few tens of thousands of years, an eye blink on this timeline, their descendants had reached the frozen tip of Siberia, the deserts of Australia, and eventually, on foot and by boat, every habitable corner of the planet. Every empire, every language, every city outside Africa, all of it traces back to that one desperate walk into the unknown. They didn't know they were doing it. No one on that journey ever knew the ending. They were just trying to survive the next day, find the next meal, reach the next hill. And in doing that, one small step at a time, they filled a world. Here's the part that gets me. We think of ourselves as settled now. We have homes with addresses, borders drawn on maps. A deep instinct to stay where it's safe, where we know the rules, where our people are. But that's not who we were. For most of our story, we were the ones who left. The ones who couldn't stop wondering what was past the horizon, even when the horizon was trying to kill us. Every safe, comfortable life you see today was built on the back of ancestors who chose the terrifying unknown over the familiar and safe. We like to imagine we chose comfort. That civilization was the goal all along, the safe destination our ancestors were walking toward. But they weren't walking toward anything. They were walking away from a world that could no longer hold them, into one that had never held anyone. There was no promised land at the end. There was only the next horizon and the stubborn refusal to stop before reaching it. They traded home for a horizon, safety for a question, everything they knew for everything they didn't. And that feeling in your gut, the one that gets restless when life gets too still, the one that wonders what else is out there, that's not new. That's the oldest part of you. It's the reason you're here at all.